You're live, Alex.
Can I stop now?
The world can see you. Hello,
Hello, world.
world.
Whoa. Well, if you've stumbled upon this, you're watching the behind the scenes recording of the Radio Tech Guys podcast episode numeral 9.
If you stumbled upon this, we're very sorry.
You're watching the behind the scenes recording of the Radio Tech Guys podcast episode. What am I hearing?
This crazy loop back. I was just testing to make sure that the stream was working. And it is. So fear not. I haven't showed my camera yet. Hello.
There he is.
Too. So we're going to get started here. That's lovely. In just about 4 minutes with episode 9. And so we're pretty excited tonight to be talking about all of the cool things that you can do behind the scenes with Axia Pathfinder. It's kind of the software that is the brains of our audio over IP infrastructure. And it can do lots of things, like automate lots of things that you can do that you would normally have to have done by hand. And we'll go down the list and talk about all those things coming up here on this episode that starts in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Pathfinder can either make your day or destroy you. It's true.
It is true. Is that a piano to your right, my left, viewer's left?
That's right.
I think I should turn your gate off real quick. You should spin on around there to the old piano and play us a little ditty while we're waiting. I have an instrument.
If I were wearing pants, I would do that.
Oh, you're not wearing pants?
Of course not. I mean, there are some pants involved here. Just not publicly acceptable pants.
Understood. All right, well, never mind then.
I wish I could just play the drum sequencer for you, because this thing's like from the 90s.
Yeah.
It's pretty stellar.
Yep, I bet. Boots and pants.
So this is a Yamaha Clavinova, and it had the books with it that had a little chip in the corner of the page.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Well, vaguely.
I don't know where all the books went. I had a whole bunch of them. But that was cool technology.
Yeah, that was very sweet. Hey, we should give out the number real quick. For people
What's the number, Chris?
Well, for people who are here ahead of time, if you want to be the first in line tonight, first on the phone, to get on with us and talk about, it doesn't have to be about the topic at hand. You can do that right now. In fact, we're stacking it up.
But it cannot be about politics.
No, absolutely not. It cannot be about the election. Strictly radio technology topics. You can call us right this very second at area code 304-284-2020, 304-284-2020, or you can shoot us an email right this very second. The email address is ask at theradiotechguys.com, and we will be checking those right now and reading those on the air as well as we go.
It's pretty exciting. 90 seconds.
Yep.
I like your film.
Oh, thank you. I was working on some things earlier, and yeah, that's where I was hanging things. I like your paint can on your door sill back there. That makes me nervous just looking at it.
Paint can where?
Is that a paint can on top
there?
Yeah.
No, those are like glory days of high school. Those are like cups and mugs.
Oh, from this angle, it looks like a blue and white paint can in the corner.
That's so funny. It's like a little coffee cup.
I totally saw that as a paint can.
Blow my video up. Oh, yeah. Wow, that's bizarre. But hey,
that's what I saw. All right, we are 40 seconds away from episode 9 of the Radio Tech Guys, and I'm nervous.
I wish it was a paint can now. That would have been much funnier.
I thought maybe you were protecting yourself from thieves who were coming in through the closet door there. Like, and it would fall. It was like the cartoon, like it would fall on their head when they opened it.
And I'd go, yoinks!
That's what I thought was going on.
All right, here we go.
All right, are we ready for this thing? You open today, right? So I'm going to just leave your camera on. We are 8 seconds away. Stand by.
and hello, and welcome to the Radio Tech Guys podcast. So this is a podcast. Don't laugh at me. I'm not done yet. This is a podcast that's all about the technology that propels the radio industry forward. We hope. And this is, boy, I stumbled over that. This is episode number 9.
That's hard to believe.
I know. It's the number 9 anniversary episode. Coursing through your ear canals right now. It's pretty exciting. Hey, welcome to the show. First of all, I am Alex Linger. On the other side of my computer screen, maybe on the other side of yours. Well, anyway, so the other person here with us tonight is Chris Moran. Chris, how are you?
Greetings. Wonderful. Couldn't be better. It's been a whirlwind of a weekend.
Yes.
We rode bikes today. I flew a drone while riding a bike today. That's
horrifying.
That's a first. It was great though.
And you still have the drone?
Still have the drone.
Wow.
Didn't injure anybody or myself. Yeah, it was great.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. I've had a fairly quiet weekend, which is always good. Boy, my children have decided they don't like to sleep anymore.
Yeah, boy.
So I've had a long couple nights, but it's okay. No problem. We're here and we're going to have a good time. Okay. How can you get a hold of us? We want you to reach out to us and get a hold of us. And you can do that in a number of ways. First of all, you can email us. That's probably your preferred method if you were born after
1980.
I don't know. Really, that's your cutoff?
I don't know. I mean, I was born in 1978, and that's true. I would email you too. So I guess it's earlier than that.
Wow. Well, at any rate, you can email us at ask@theradiotechguys.com. Or if you're old school or new school, it really doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm. Anyway, you can also call us at 304-284-2020. 304-284-2020.
Operators are
Chris?
standing by to take your
whole team.
To take your
whole
call.
team.
Yeah.
So hey, what else can they do?
Well, those are the great ways to do it, but we'd also really love for you to follow us on our social media channels to kind of keep up to date with what we're working on, because beyond the scope of this, so let's clear something up right out of the gate. Let's do it. If you're watching us tonight on our YouTube channel on this Google Hangout, this is not really what we do. We just kind of show this behind the scenes of the recording of these podcasts. We're still making an audio podcast here. That's what we're doing right this very minute.
Well, we're trying.
You could argue one could argue that we are attempting to make an audio podcast here, but beyond that, we are also producing videos, how-to videos, like tech tip videos, product review videos, and whatnot on YouTube. And we have a channel there. Yep. So the things we'd love for you to do would be to jump on, follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is that what they call it? It's at radio. It's a handle, right? Okay.
Yeah.
At Radio Tech Guys. At Radio Tech Guys on Twitter. You can also search for the Radio Tech Guys on Facebook and follow us there. But above all of the things, for the love of God, if you can go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, search for the Radio Tech Guys, you'll find us there. Subscribe there, but also to this audio podcast that we are creating right now. You can subscribe to us anywhere you get podcasts, on iTunes, the Google Play Store, on Stitcher, which if you don't have, you can get it today for free at Stitcher.com or on the App Store for your device. But we would love to have you around, kind of in the loop with what we're doing and participating. It's a two-way street here. We had some great feedback this week on our previous couple of episodes. Those were kind of big, and we had a couple of people who wanted some topic suggestions, which we think are excellent. We're going to get to those here in the coming weeks, but we're glad you're along tonight. Busy night tonight. A lot of things to talk about, and stay tuned for our beer and wine reviews coming up at the end of the show.
Thank goodness. Boy, have I missed that. I don't think people realize, I've never shared this with you, Chris, but so every morning I check to see how many people have subscribed or downloaded our show.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I decide if I'm going to get out of bed or not.
Well, so I'm surprised that you have been out of bed.
Yeah.
Although it has picked up quite a bit, and we're grateful.
It has.
We're grateful for everybody who's come along for this and stuck with us through some of the growing pains that we're going through, but we're excited about it, and we just love
and we've
talking
met
about
cool people
yes.
already in a short amount of time. We've met some awesome people, and the radio community is just full of just neat people and personalities. So we want to bring them all together.
Yep. Well, let's talk about Axia tonight. What do you think? I got a text message.
Why not?
I got a text earlier this weekend from Alex. It's like, hey, I'm going to produce some videos, because behind the scenes, the conversations you guys don't see us talking about is like, we need more content. We got to get more content up. He's like, I'm going to produce this series of videos on Pathfinder and automation and stuff. And I said, well, let's talk about it this weekend. Let's talk about some of the fundamental things that you can accomplish with Pathfinder that make your lives so much easier going forward and are so much more efficient. And then we can kind of lead into the videos that you're going to produce this week. Is that your?
Yep.
This.
Yeah. So I'm going to commit to one very in-depth video this week. I'm going to attempt a second one, but it might not happen until next week.
Okay.
But we'll see.
All right. So let's jump into it then. Pathfinder.
It's funny. We've talked so much about audio over IP in our episodes, but I don't even know that we've mentioned kind of the software brains behind our Axia Livewire system. So that's what we're going to cover tonight. Go ahead.
I was waiting for you. Shall I go?
I'm sorry. Oh, please just go.
All right. So Pathfinder is what Telos Alliance has released. That is the Pathfinder server application is the kind of the brains, the heart and the core, if you will, of your IP audio network. It is not necessary technically for your audio over IP network to function, but it is extremely powerful and is a great addition that allows you to do some very cool automated type routing and control things. It runs on a server, typically. Actually, in good installations, you'll have it running on at least 2 servers that are clustered. And by clustered, we mean they're physically directly connected to one another with 2 additional network cards that kind of like flop over and plug into one another, so that if they can't see each other across the existing network anymore, they still communicate that way and keep themselves constantly synchronized.
And it's smart the way Axia does this. And let's back up real quick. And so you mentioned you run this on a server. It's not heavy software. It doesn't take a lot of processing power. You could probably run this on a nice desktop machine, really. So you don't have to worry too much about the hardware. In fact, here, dirty little secret. So we have 2 Pathfinder installations in our the building where Chris and I work, and neither of those are dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those installations run on dedicated hardware. Our primary Pathfinder server actually runs on our file server for the whole corporation, so it gets a lot of use.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also doing strange other things that we've thrown on that box, but
Flash
it's another story.
Blah, blah,
yeah, whatever. And then our second, sort of our backup installation, actually runs on our wide orbit automation server, central server.
Sorry,
so yeah, maybe shouldn't have said that, I guess. But they run fine, absolutely no problems. And then Chris mentioned clustering, and I think this is fascinating. This isn't new. Lots of redundant server installations do this, but it does exactly what Chris said. You have 2 physical boxes, both of which are connected to your business LAN and to your Axia LAN independently, in most cases. But then you add 2 additional network cards to each box, and they connect to each other. Those servers connect to each other directly. And what's cool about that is if any one of those links gets severed, or any one of those ports fail, or what have you, Pathfinder will self-heal itself and continue to talk to the Axia network through whatever link it has available. And it's really slick. And that'll be something we talk more in depth on in a coming video. But you absolutely, for a big installation, a big audio over IP installation, you want to run it in a redundant mode like that for lots of obvious reasons.
Right. So we're going to talk. So we're talking about Pathfinder Server, and that is one part of the Pathfinder suite, if you will, of software that's available from Axis. So there's the server module that actually runs in the back end, controls things that you designated to control. There's also there's an application called Pathfinder Mini, which is a client connected device, not device, client connected piece of software that reaches out to the server, and you can use it to create panels, which we will talk about. Can you get on a server and be ready to share a screen?
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Pathfinder Mini, which is very cool. And there's also a Pathfinder PC application, which is a kind of an XY grid. If you're familiar with the old school routers, I won't name brands like SAS and others that we used to use the SAS software. It's just the old school XY grid, but it shows you all of your sources and all of your destinations and where things are routed in the Pathfinder PC application. But
isn't it terrible? I don't remember where we have Pathfinder PC installed, but I'll find it.
CS, I think.
Do we? Okay.
I think so. So let's talk a little bit about Pathfinder Server and some of the things that it can do that can help save you time and be more efficient and be more reliable for how you're doing things on the air. Fundamentally, there are probably 4 or 5 tasks that we rely on Pathfinder to do for us daily at our operations, and I think we can just kind of nail through these fairly quickly, kind of give you a broad overview of how we do it and what they do. I see your screen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we can dive more in depth, like you said in your video that's coming this week. The first and foremost functionality that we use Pathfinder for on the back end is our on-air to the transmitter switching. This is something that used to be accomplished with some kind of analog switcher or matrix physical hardware rack mounted switcher when we needed to switch the source that was feeding our air chain from things like the automation switcher's output or the console's program one. In other words, if you had a talent that was live on the air or your automation system was live on the air. So we used to do that with an old school analog switcher in line somewhere. And that was fine and whatever, and that's how things work. It's so much easier today in our audio over IP worlds to switch things like that on a regular basis. The way we configure that now is by using Pathfinder, and we tell it we create soft panels within Pathfinder and the panel designer that we say we're going to control this with a Pathfinder mini panel. And Alex is showing us one. If you're watching on the web stream tonight, you can see it here. We create these studio control panels where they're soft buttons, where we define these buttons, and if a user clicks a button here and enables, oh Lord help me, don't really, okay, where you actually enable changes and make changes on the fly, what it's doing actually is switching between virtual mixers. We have the output of a vmix feeding the transmitter all the time. In other words, this route of this virtual mixer is feeding the processing for a certain radio station all the time. And when an operator switches to the console in that studio, it just says, hey, turn the vmix channel that is for this console's program one on and turn off its switcher vmix. And then when they hit switcher, it does the inverse. So all that is happening in software. There is no physical audio switching happening there. That is all happening in software. Now, here's the magic of that. As part of this chain, traditionally, if you would have had an analog switcher in line, we would have had to have had an EAS unit down the line, in line with that program bus. Like it would literally be, the physical output of the switcher would be plugged into the input of your EAS unit, and the output of your EAS unit would then go on to air. We no longer have to physically put our EAS units in line, which is great when you end up in multi-station clusters like we have, where you'd have to buy additional hardware to have 6 or 7 interruptible program lines. What we're able to do now using Pathfinder is take the closure, the alert closure from your EAS encoder into a GPIO node and say wherever it is, whatever it is, and then take your audio out of your EAS unit into an audio analog node, or AES if your EAS unit supports it. AES if your EAS unit. That's hilarious. Okay, well anyway, so then within Pathfinder, we're able to create events, which if you're watching, you can see this in the thing. We're able to create events that say, if this closure is latched, so that would be, when the EAS unit fires and is triggering alert. If this thing is latched, then change this route. So what we do is we take that vmix that we spoke of earlier and we turn that off, and we turn on the output of the EAS unit to the transmitters, as long as that closure from the EAS unit is latched. And as soon as it becomes unlatched, we return the feed of those radio stations back to their vmix output. So all of this is accomplished. What this does for you is actually it's multiple layers of things this does. This, number one, it takes more hardware out of the chain to possibly fail in your air chain. If your EAS unit dies, we've had this numerous times where one of our Sage index has lost its mind, and we've knocked the station off the air until somebody goes in and pulls the power and plugs it back in. So your EAS unit can fritz out now in this configuration and not kill you. The other thing it does for the purists, the audio purists among us, it maintains this pristine audio path where you're staying live wire all the way to the site. You don't have to put a bunch of devices in line on the way.
Because let's face it, I don't know that these EAS boxes necessarily are built with the finest of audio connectors, and it's
sure.
Let's not pass everything through it all the time.
Yeah, why would you want your program through there when it doesn't have to be? You're looking actually here at our list of events, and while we're here, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can see it. You can see that we're doing several things with our EAS units there. We have a few custom things that are really silly that we won't even talk about, like the Black Bears switching and stuff. Actually, the rest of them are EAS, and you can see we have a bunch of backup STLs and other things. We have a bunch of places to route our EAS events to, and we use all of that. All of our EAS functionality is handled through Pathfinder, getting things on the air where they need to be. It all happens there, which is super cool. So we're talking Axia Pathfinder and automation, and there's several more topics that we want to jump into now, but want to remind you that we are taking calls tonight as well. 304-284-2020 is the phone number. 304-284-2020. If you're checking things out on Sunday night and want to be part of the show, we can talk about this stuff or any other topics that you want to have in mind. So that's EAS and station routing that we've got.
Hey, I realized something. Can I jump in there?
I'd love you to.
It has nothing to do with Pathfinder.
Hit it.
So we're recording this on Sunday nights. Our podcast episode doesn't actually drop until Tuesday mornings. And I just realized this episode is going to drop on Election Day.
Well.
So if you're listening to this in the morning, hey, go vote. Go do that. And then get back to the episode, okay?
And then hang out with us. Well, we haven't actually talked about whether we're really going to do it or not.
Oh, we are.
We're probably going to be live tonight on Election Day.
Yes.
With a really amazing behind the scenes of our crazy network election coverage that we do for our 60 station Metro News radio network.
And we know we're not the only ones. Everyone will be at work and probably bored because everything's working.
That's right.
So join us.
Sorry, I was bringing some patriotic music in the thing. But I'm late to the party. Yeah, we're gonna have keep tabs on our social media, Twitter. Follow at Radio Tech Guys. We'll tweet out some stuff on Election Day about what we're planning on doing tonight for our election coverage behind the scenes. It's going to be pretty cool.
Crazy fun and games.
All right, so that's station routing and EAS.
Yeah. So let's jump in. The next tab here is stacking events. Oh my goodness.
And this will be the bulk of your video, right?
This will be the bulk of the video because everything that we just talked about actually in some way relies on stack events. I think. Is that true?
EAS events don't.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Events are their own
thing.
So
yes, in other words, all of the things that you just mentioned do not indeed rely on stack events.
So anyway, Chris, so let's talk about stack events. So stack events, boy, they're more simple than they're going to sound. However, they're much more complicated than you might think they are. That makes sense?
Wait, I'm still thinking about it. Yeah, so, I got it.
Yeah. So stack events, are basically just if-then statements. And if you've ever dealt with, there's a really cool application called If This Then That. And it lets you write sort of these custom scripts that say, if this action happens, then do this action. And that's exactly what a stack event is. So we use these in a number of different ways. And we only really scratch the surface of what you can do with stack events, but we use them a lot for firing GP outputs to trigger mic tallies or on-air lights. We also use them to trigger, if we ever use CD players anymore, we trigger them to automatically start CD players or start shortcuts, things like that. But then stack events are also how you drive the Pathfinder Mini soft panels that we talked about earlier. That's complicated, and like I said, we're going to get into the bulk of that in an in-depth video. Certainly don't have the time to talk about all that tonight, but I'll give you a little example here. So let's talk about mic tallies. We use in most of our stations, we use the Mica mic arms that have a little LED ring built in above where the mic mounts. And we can actually trigger those with the GP output to light that ring up when that mic is on. Fairly simple principle, but it takes some steps to do that. So let's look at this one. This is for one of our studios here. Let me hit edit. Okay, there we go. All right, so
should we point out what an old version of Pathfinder that we're looking at?
Oh, yeah, well? That's a good idea. Boy, that is a shame, isn't it?
Well,
yeah, Pathfinder. It doesn't look a whole lot different today.
It doesn't, but it is prettier. The current version is prettier. Functionality. There's been some bells and whistles that are added, but it's fundamentally the same. Anyway, I just wanted to disclaim that this is not the latest and greatest.
Absolutely. So, okay, let me play devil's advocate. Why haven't you upgraded? Because we're scared. Truly, it's because this is constantly on the air, and we're just afraid. Well, no reason why we shouldn't.
We should probably do it. Maybe election night would be a good time.
Oh, that's a perfect night to do it. Absolutely. No problem. All right, so here are some caveats, things that we should talk about. But first of all, let's look at let me mention this before I really show much of this. There are multiple ways to achieve the same goal with stack events. And that's why I said it's a little bit more complex than you might think. For example, when I create this event to light up a mic tally when the host microphone is turned on, okay? There's several things we have to do. I don't exactly know why this is the case, and I've never asked Telos Axia about this, and I'm sure they have a very good answer, but you can't just tell Pathfinder, okay, when I turn this channel on, fire this GP output. I don't know why, but there's an interim step that's a memory value. So if we look at my qualifier, which is the if statement, all we're doing is telling this, okay, look at this live wire channel. In this case, it's channel 513. And look for the on button. And when its state is down, so when you have pressed the on button, that's our qualifier. And what I want it to do is write a memory value. So I've created a memory slot called mic1. I probably should have been more specific with that, but that's what it is. And it writes
I'll be curious then to see what you did in the other studios.
Well, I don't remember, but we'll find out. So it writes 1 to that memory value, or think in terms of binary. 1 is on and 0 is off. Okay, so it writes 1. So then we create a second event that actually turns that light on. And in this case, our qualifier or our if statement is just looking at that memory value. Looking at mic 1, does it have a 1? That's all it's asking. And if it does, then it's going to fire this action. This is our then statement. And all we're saying here is use this GPO destination And this, we could find that through our crazy GPIO router. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Hey, can I tell you something?
Sure.
You know why you're writing memory values here?
Tell me.
The reason you're doing this way is because now you can do multiple things when that memory value is written. In other words,
that's true.
That's true. We've made one qualifier that says if this channel number's on button is turned on, write this memory value. And then now you can look back at that memory value and say, if that memory value is 1, then turn on the ring light on the mic arm, and you'll fire this GPO that turns on the on-air light over the door outside, and ring the buzzer in the PD. I mean, any number of things that you can do with that. That's probably
fire
why
a skimmer.
Exactly. That's why we're writing memory values, because then we can do 10 different things from the same function.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in this case, when it sees that memory value, it's just simply firing that GP output. It's taking it to its state low, which means it's on. Yeah. There are a lot of things in Axia.
That's right. No, low is right for a closed relay or closed
I know. But why couldn't you just say on or off? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Okay. I love Axia. There's a lot of things about it, like sources and destinations.
Yeah, inputs and outputs.
Why couldn't we just say inputs and outputs?
Right. No, I get you.
On and off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do.
But once you learn the lingo, it's fine. So that's what that does. And then we have an action if qualifiers are not met. So this is simply looking, and it's going to say, okay, well, if that memory slot doesn't have a 1, if it's not written to, well, make that GPO output make that GP output go to its high state or off. Okay. So that's all well and good. If here's the caveat. If you have a single console in your studio and you can look at that on button press to be your qualifier, that's great. In some of our studios, however, we have like headphone mic modules on the guest positions around our table. In that case, we can't look at the on button press. We have to look at the channel state. We could do this all the time, and I think that's what I've done from here on out, but these were some of the first few I did. But same principle. Rather than looking at that on button press, you give it a qualifier that says, if the channel state of Livewire channel 513, go ahead, what?
Oh, are you saying, I'm sorry, I'm learning something. Are you saying that if so the qualifier that is if the button is pushed on that console, it doesn't count as a button push if one of the guest modules on button is
correct, because pushed. That's a different button number.
Yeah, because it's not the same button being pushed.
Correct.
So yeah, channel state is the way to do those.
Let me tell you how I learned that. It took me a week because I set all this up and then sat at the guest position and turned it on and cussed for about a week because I couldn't make it work. But once I figured out, oh, well, that makes sense because that isn't the button that's qualifying this action.
I see.
So then, yeah, it creates a little bit more complication because when you tell it the channel state rather than the button press, well, then you also have to create a qualifier for its off state. Basically, it's a separate event that has to happen. Again, we'll get into all this in the video. There's a lot of really cool things you can do. We're also doing like silent sense alerts. We're telling Pathfinder, monitor this route, monitor this audio source. And if you don't see audio there, send an email to these addresses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool. So we have a group of people in our company that get alerts that say like station XXXX, silence sense, and the time.
And then it gets brought up in department head meetings. It's almost like
why was it off the air at 2:30 in the morning on Thursday?
What happened at 2:17 on this station when I got a silencer email? And I'm like,
we all look at each other and go, I have no idea.
Why did we set this up?
But it's immensely powerful. That honestly, as much as that is a pain, it's kept people kind of on their toes, and we keep things on the air. So that's good.
So yeah, so you're going to go in depth more on actually creating a lot of these things, but there are a couple other things that I think in 2016 are becoming more and more commonplace for people to think about that we've used Pathfinder for. Every spring we do a series of basketball tournaments on our network, from the Charleston Civic Center. We do a Division II college basketball tournament, men's and women's. And then after that, we have 2 weeks of high school basketball tournaments that we do like 60 games on or whatever. And then last year was the first year we really did full-time redundant connections from the game site to our headquarters in Morgantown, where our uplink is. And so by redundant, I mean we were sending audio on redundant paths. One was IP, one was ISDN, and also contact closures from the game site along both of those paths as well. And we wanted a way to not have to rely on it, because we originate all of this content locally from the game site. We rely on nobody. We don't have a board operator. There's nothing going on at the studio. We wanted a way from courtside to be able. That was my Donald Trump hand. I just we made
no politics.
Sorry, but I just did this, and I was like, you're clear of that nonsense.
Why?
No politics. I'm just making the statement that I. But we wanted a way from courtside to be able to switch between sources should something happen. And so do you remember we made a soft panel using Pathfinder? We made a soft panel to run from courtside where we could push it, and it would change the routes. It would change what was feeding the satellite uplink channel specifically designated for this tournament, but also GPIO routing too, which is super cool. And just one more of the many possibilities when you're doing your routing in your audio IP network and not relying on physical analog devices.
Soft panels are really cool. And it's funny. It takes a little time for some people, I think, to be okay with relying on a piece of software to do all this. There's a lot of, the old school engineers out there are so used to having a physical button that you can feel press and you can hear the relay click and you just know that things are happening. For some of the younger folks, we're like, yeah, it's software. Of course it works. It does its thing. But what?
I'm sorry. Was my talking in your ear bothering you? The other thing is you can't.
I didn't know if it was.
I know. See, that's the problem with these cool new things. So anyway,
okay.
I was just suggesting that after this thought, that you reset one more time, give the phone number, and then we'll keep going. Sorry, there's some behind the scenes junk.
That's what you joined to hear, right? Anyway, so we had some argument in the very early days of our audio over IP, where we were strongly urged, if not told, to have a secondary physical button to do some of these things. And honestly, that added so much more complication and created so many more areas of failure that we finally all agreed, okay, let the software do it. And now we know it does it, and everything's fine. Now, I should say that there is, you do need to understand that this is a packet-driven communication method. And if there is any chance that you're going to drop a packet here or there, while this has been very good for us over the last 7-8 years, however long it's been, we have had maybe 4 or 5 instances where we switched a studio to switcher, as we call it, or changed its vmix, and maybe it didn't change a few things down the path, and that's probably due to we had some sort of packet drop, we had some sort of link failure,
or it had to do with that we're on like 4-year-old Pathfinder.
Well, what happened 4 years ago? So, but yeah, so while that is extremely rare, that is still a difference. And let's face it, physical buttons can fail too. Relays can fail and all that. So it's really no more dangerous. But that is something that we've experienced. Okay, as Chris said very publicly, let me let you know how we can how you can get a hold of us. You can call us at 304-284-2020. You can call us right now. We'll be happy to talk to you. Or you can also email us at ask at theradiotechguys.com. And I see that bottle of wine being drained into the cup.
Well, somebody had to do it.
That's exciting. Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff.
Yep.
So there's obviously a lot of things you can do when you start automating things on the back end of your IP audio network. Another episode at a later day will be some of the integration with automation systems that are available today. It's kind of related because there's like you said earlier, there's like 3 or 4 different ways to accomplish the same thing in most all cases.
Sure. Yep.
Not excluding how radio automation systems communicate with your audio over IP system. You can use Pathfinder, like in our specific instance, wide orbit automation for radio can control our Axia IP network through Pathfinder, but it can also now control directly the analog and AES audio nodes and the GPIO nodes without needing the interface of Pathfinder. So we'll do a section on that coming up too, because I think that's another level of integration within your plant beyond just automating things on your IP audio infrastructure. But when your automation system can start controlling them, then you really eliminate things, which we've done in like 2 of our markets, or actually just one really truly eliminated all things and have our automation system directly switching inputs and outputs on nodes on our IP audio system. And then you talk about a clean path of eliminating all things in between. That's crazy.
That's exactly right. And it, like I said, a lot of people get very scared when you say you're going to take all the hardware out of this. But you can remind them, though, that does eliminate hardware failure as a possibility. It eliminates the physical connections as a possibility for failure. While it does sort of put all your eggs in one basket, at least everything's in one basket where you can go to find it.
Yeah.
So, there's value to that, I think. You're rifling through pages there.
I'm sorry. I had a stack of pages come out of the printer here while I've been going on. And I'm noticing that my wife has printed a sample ballot.
Oh, nice.
So I'm starting to really drill down here and go through hey, there's somebody from our street running for city council here.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's time to start thinking about the election, I suppose.
Oh, boy.
Like we have.
Hey, on a personal level and a company level. I mean, boy, election season. It gets a little busy.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
A little busy.
Well, what's coming up here? Stay on the lookout again. Like we mentioned, subscribe to our social media channels on Twitter at Radio Tech Guys, and search for us on Facebook for the Radio Tech Guys. We have a lot of updates that are coming out this week related to videos that will be up on digging in depth to configuring these stack events and other things in Pathfinder that Alex was talking about. That'll be a hot topic, I think, because
I hope so.
Once you wrap your head around the concepts, it's not super complicated.
No.
It seems like it though if you haven't done it before.
It's like learning a new language, but in a much easier way. There are things that you just sort of have to understand, and once they click, you fly through it.
Yeah. So that's going to be coming up this week. Also, if you've downloaded this podcast when it was released on Tuesday, Election Day.
Happy election day.
Get to the polls.
There's an end in sight.
And thank the Lord, and keep following us on social media today, because we're planning on doing something super cool on election night at our headquarters for behind the scenes coverage of how our election coverage works. We can't promise you it'll be super exciting, but we'll show you behind.
You'll probably see us eat a lot of food.
We'll eat, and we'll show you behind the scenes on that. So follow that, and please subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe here on iTunes or Stitcher or the Google Play Store, and get in touch with us this week. We'd love to hear from you on email, ask@theradiotechguys.com, or on any of our social media channels. We'd love to hear from you there. What are you drinking, Alex?
Correct. Here we go. All right. I am drinking from the Red Hook Brewery. It's sad, it's November, but I'm drinking one of their summer blends, Summer Hook, which is a golden rye ale. Not much to say about it. It's very it's very good, but it's not a standout. It's like any other ale you'd drink, I think. But it's nice, and it's summery, and makes me think of warm weather.
Well, I don't want to think of warm weather. I'm enjoying the fall that has just finally decided to arrive.
Yeah, it comes and goes. It's bizarre.
So my parents, quick story, just got back. They're retired. My parents both recently retired, and they spent 2 weeks in the Outer Banks here in late
lucky
October.
dogs.
I know, into November. And so we agreed. They live 2 blocks away. We agreed to check in daily on their elderly cat Olive, who is overweight and also very picky about litter box and food and water and things like that. So we stopped in every day. But anyway, so they came back yesterday. We went over and saw them today, and they brought us back a few goodies, including fudge, which you can never complain about, and a book on some of the lighthouses there on the Outer Banks.
Oh, that's cool.
But they also brought us a bottle of wine from the Outer Banks, but it's not, they bought it in the Outer Banks. It is not an Outer Banks wine. It's not a North Carolina wine even.
Sure.
This is a wine that is called, I should have looked up this word. Is it Apothic Crush? Is that what that says, Alex?
I mean, that's how I would read it.
It's Apothic Crush. This is a red.
I guess you could also say
apathic,
which is funny.
I don't know that word, and I might be making a fool of myself. I don't know that word, but let me just. This is from the Apothic Winery in Modesto, California. This is a decadent red blend that combines red fruit flavors with notes of caramel and a velvety smooth mouthfeel. Those are all accurate descriptions.
I love that.
The most accurate description, though, can be found on the front of this bottle, where it states very clearly that its alcohol per volume is 14.5%.
It's got some hair on it.
That's pretty potent. And the bottle is empty, and the last of it is here, and it's been very good, actually. I've got to tell you, the description is very, and especially the smooth mouthfeel part. Like, it stays with you, but it's good in a good way.
I wonder if there's like one guy out there who writes the descriptions of wines for all these companies. I would love his job.
Velvety mouthfeel. That's what I'm going to add that one to my notebook for potentially using later.
That's how we'll describe this podcast. Yeah. Hey, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Join us next week, obviously Sunday night at 9:30. We'll talk about
audio codecs.
Yeah, good. Great. Audio codecs.
With samples. It'll be a good time.
Oh, I can't wait. All right, guys. Thank you. Get in touch with us this week. Subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. See you later.
Bye, everybody.